Hi, I hope you're well. Thanks for joining. Today we're going to be looking at some relatively subtle exercises that mainly focus around the hips and the lower back, and obviously always involving the core. So we'll get on the mat and we'll get started. Lying flat on your back, we're going to start with a bit of a stretch. So taking your arms out to a T position, relaxing your shoulders down with your palms facing up. We'll start with the left leg. You're just going to bring that up to tabletop position, relax the foot, and taking your right hand, so the opposite hand, and just dragging that knee across, keeping your shoulders down on the mat but letting your pelvis roll across with the leg, and looking in the opposite direction to the leg that you've dragged across. So looking at the hand that's out in the T position, and breathing into this for a few seconds. Full breaths in, feeling how that elongates the body, and full breaths out, feeling how that allows you to deepen slightly into the stretch maybe, and feeling how it relaxes through the muscles and deepens the stretch. Full breath in, full breath out. Just using that hand to slightly drag the knee across. Don't push too hard, but just dragging the knee across, putting a little bit of pressure on. You're possibly feeling this through your lumbar spine and through the glutes on the leg that's bent. Full breaths in and full breaths out. Keeping your shoulders on the mat and getting that spine twist all the way through. And your next inhale, just going to slowly bring that back to center, take the arms out to that T position, and switch legs. Opposite hand to the knee and just dragging it across. And from this angle you can see how that just pulls the pelvis up and over with it. So the hips almost point up to the ceiling, but your shoulders stay flat on the mat to get that spine twist, and turn your head to look at the hand that's out along the ground. Breathing into it. Full breath in and full breath out to deepen into the stretch. Again, not too much pressure on the knee with that hand, just enough to feel it dragging across. And just keeping that spine on a slight stretch. Breathing into this. Feeling how the phases of the breath change the phases of the muscles. And on your next inhale, we're just going to bring that back to center and take the legs down to the mat. We're just going to go into a simple leg float. So for this, just want to bend the knees, arms down by your sides, or you can keep them out in a T position if you want to, and relaxing the shoulders down under the mat, down and back, locking in through the core so the pelvis doesn't move around with the weight of the leg moving. That's going to be a big teaching point in this session, so bear that in mind. Keeping the feet and the knees hip width apart, take a breath in, lock in through the core, and as you exhale, just float the heel out and above the mat, almost just grazing the mat but with no weight on it. And inhale back up and exhale down, taking the full length of the out breath. And point the toes, and the full length of a deep inhale to bring the leg back. So this is just switching on those hip flexors, switching on through the core. It's even switching on a bit through the back, because as you take the leg out straight, you're taking your body weight away from the center of gravity and making that pelvis have to work to stay in place, and that's using all of the muscles above and below it. So it's really important that as you take that leg out and it gets heavy, your pelvis doesn't drop forwards with it and tilt forwards. You're just staying flat through the upper body. So as subtle as this move is, it accumulates over time through those hip flexors. But it's a warm-up exercise, so don't expect that this should really be placing any big demands. It's as much to warm up those muscles, but also to get your breathing in tune with your movement. one more on each side. And the last one. And we're going to come into single leg lifts. Again, nothing too demanding, but just really focusing now, because the body weight's going to increase, with your legs flat and straight out, on that pelvis staying locked in place, soft curve in your lower spine, so that you could just slide your hand underneath. Arms either in a T position or down by your sides. Take a breath in, lock it in through the core. As you exhale, point the toe and lift the right leg to about 45 degrees and inhale to take it back down. So again, nothing too dramatic here, and switching legs. Exhale to lift, inhale to lower. Just again, working that little bit more into those hip flexors. If you put your fingers on the bony prominences at the front of your pelvis and then just drop them down, you'll feel those hip flexors switching on and off as you move. Not letting that pelvis move at all, locking it in place with the core. Drawing that transverse abdominis muscle in will mean that you lock it in from the front, but it also engages through the back and locks in through the back muscles as well. Just try and lift a little bit higher than 45 now if you can, but without moving that pelvis and without lifting the opposite leg off the mat. So it may not be very high, may not even be as high as you would expect. People with tight hamstrings will be feeling this one. Certainly if you've got tight hamstrings, you're not going to get your legs straight up in the air, which may be what some people expect to be able to do until you try it. Just lifting as high now as you're starting to feel a bit of a hamstring stretch. And one more on each side. And inhale to lower back down. And we're going to do a similar thing, but this time we're going to lift both legs to meet each other. So you're going to take a breath in, as ever, locking in through the core, holding that pelvis steady, exhaling to lift the right leg, and inhaling to lift the left leg to meet it, and exhaling to lower both back down. Now, lowering both back down is going to start to put big demands on the hip flexors and pelvis. Don't let that pelvis drop forwards. Breath in, exhale to lift the right leg, lift the left leg. Inhale down and switch your leading leg to the left. Exhale, inhale, and down. Really locking in through that core now. Switching to the right leg. Switch into the left. And down. Two more like this, really locking in through that core. Don't let that pelvis move. Right leg first, left leg to meet it, lowering back down. And one more, leading with the left. Don't forget to breathe through this, drawing in that core all the way down to the mat. And this time we're going to bring the legs up to tabletop position. Arms still out in that T position or down by your sides if you need them for that bit of stability. And we're going to bring the knees together and the feet together. And we're going to do double toe taps. So remembering from the toe taps that we've done, we're keeping the knees at 90 degrees. We're not just dropping the legs, we're dropping at the hips, and exhale to lower down, touch the mat with the toes very gently and back up. We say very gently down onto the mat, because if you put too much weight down onto the mat, you're switching off, and you also have that inclination to bounce back up rather than lift back up. So locking in through that core, exhale down and inhale up. You can see how slowly I'm moving with the breath. This isn't about explosive power. This is about control and precision. And we're going to do 3 more. 3. Inhaling back up, keeping that pelvis locked in place through the core. 2. And 1. And from here, just keeping those arms out in a T position. If you've got them by your sides, bring them out in that T position now. We're going to take a breath in, lock in through the core. We're going to drop the legs over to the right hand side to about 45 degrees and inhale back to center and switch sides, exhaling to go across. Keep the knees stacked. Don't let the top knee slide down the bottom leg. Take the pelvis with the twist. Similar to that stretch we did at the beginning, but this is introducing some strength and control by locking in through the core, drawing that belly button in, breathing through the chest. Feet and knees are together, remember. Keeping the knees stacked. Keeping the shoulders on the mat. And 1 more on each side. And we're going to just lower the feet to the mat and roll on to the right hand side. You're going to come up onto your elbow and bend the knees in front of you. A bit like clamshells if you've ever done those. Bring the knees in front and have the feet about parallel with your back, in line with your back. And you want your elbow directly beneath your shoulder. Don't slump into this and have your elbow slumped up. Draw that shoulder joint back into the socket and stay strong and tall and strong through the side. And we're going to extend, just staying down on the mat for today. The top leg out, point the toe, and with the top arm, just bring it behind your head. Now, that isn't just to look pretty. This opens up the chest. If you have the arms anywhere else, you can see that has me inclined to drop my shoulders forwards and slump into this. We're staying strong through here, as we've already said, but bringing that arm behind the head and dragging your elbow back means you stay strong and back through the chest. So pointing that top leg, pointing the toes, we're going to take a breath in, lock in through the core, and as you exhale, we're just going to lift the leg. It won't be high because of the position you've got the body in. And inhale down, exhale up. Feeling that in the glutes. Squeezing through the glutes to lift. Pointing the toe and reaching through the leg, making yourself as long as you can. Lifting that elbow, staying strong through the shoulders. 4, 8, 7, 6. Dragging that elbow back, staying tall and strong through the body. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And bringing that leg forwards now, we're going to do the lift exactly the same, but forwards. It'll just get into those glute muscles at a slightly different angle. And we're going to take a breath in, lock in through the core and start to lift. Pointing the toe, reaching out through it. Exhale to lift, inhale to lower. Strong through the body, drag that elbow back. Particularly with bringing the leg forwards, don't have that inclination to close the body up. Open up through the body. 6. As high as you can without rolling through the pelvis, just lifting through the leg. 2, and 1. And lower the leg down, just bend it and bring it back in line with the other one for a second. Just give that glute a bit of a massage if it's starting to feel the fatigue. And with that arm still on the back of the head, head up, I'm going to bring that leg forwards again, point the toe, and this time we're going to draw an arch across the body. So reaching behind you with the heel and in front of you with the toe. So as you lift the leg up and over on the exhale, you start to flex the foot and drop the heel into the ground, turning the leg over and pointing the toe as it comes through to the front and down to tap in front of you. Again, this is like the toe taps. Don't unload onto the floor, just tap and come back across. Trying not to move the body at all, the upper body. This is just articulating through the hip and moving the leg. So don't rock backwards and forwards with the movement of the leg. With this one, it's not so important whether you breathe in and out with a particular movement, as long as you flow in the movement with the breath. So breathe as you feel, but exhale one way, inhale the other. Or exhale for half and inhale for half, depending on your lung capacity and how you're comfortable. As long as you're not holding your breath and you're not breathing too quickly through this. And 2 more. Staying strong through that shoulder, flexing and pointing the foot. And the last one. And rolling onto your front, we're going to come into some back extensions, just simple warm-ups. Arms out in that surrender position with your elbows a little bit higher than your shoulders, so they're not dropped back and they're not squeezing into your back. And forehead down to the mat, taking a breath in to engage through the core and exhale to lift. Switching your glutes off and lowering back down on the inhale. Just lifting through those back muscles. 4, 8. Switch those glutes off. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And for the purposes of the camera, I'm going to spin round because I realise I'm on an angle to you and I've almost got my back to you. But from here, we're going to take the arms out in front and untuck the toes. And we're going to lift the opposite arm to the opposite leg. So if you've done swimming before, it's very similar to that. But I want you to turn your thumbs up to the ceiling. Thumbs up feels a little bit daft, but don't worry about it. You'll notice that if you're lifting and pointing and reaching through your thumb to the ceiling, it's going to get right through that back. Whereas with your arms down, you've turned your shoulders in and it doesn't open up your shoulders quite so much. So there is a big benefit to reaching up through the thumbs. So forehead down to the mat, and we're going to start with right hand, left foot, reaching out through the toes, not bending the leg, and lifting up to the ceiling and back down on the inhale. And exhale to lift, left arm, right foot, press up to the ceiling and down. Exhale to lift, pressing up to the ceiling with the hand and pointing the thumb up and reaching out through the toes and down. If you want to put a block or a rolled up towel under your forehead, I should have mentioned that, just pause the video and do that. Should be fine, we're not going to be here for long. Really feel this in that diagonal across your back, from the lifted shoulder to the lifted leg, as well as through the glutes and through the shoulders. Really pressing and reaching out to make yourself as long as possible. Pressing up. And one more on each side after this one. So last one on each side. And down. And this time turning onto the left side to balance out with those side lying exercises. Onto the elbow. Elbow directly beneath the shoulder, don't slump, draw that shoulder into its socket, strong and tall, bending the legs, arm behind the head, elbow back, opening up through the chest, breathing throughout. We're going to just point that leg out, point the toe, and we're going to inhale to prepare, lock in through the core, exhale to lift. Again, toes tap, they don't unload onto the ground. Squeezing through that glute to lift this, not hitching through the body. If you see the body stays totally still, we're not doing this. We're just lifting that leg and squeezing through the glute as high as you can without hitching through the body. For 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And bringing the leg forwards with the toe still pointed and keeping the chest up and back, so we're not creasing forwards with that increase in flexion of the leg. We're just lifting through the glute from a different angle for 8, 7, 6, 5. Try to resist rolling through the pelvis. 3, 2, 1. And I cheated you of a couple there, so we're going to do 2 more. 2, 1. I started counting at a lower number than I did for the others. And again, just bringing that leg back, relax it off, give that glute a little bit of a rub if you need to, relax your shoulders a little bit if you need to. We're going to come into the arcs with the legs, so the hand comes back, elbow dragged back to keep that chest open and strong through the shoulders, pointing the toes. Take a breath in, locking in through the core, pointing the toe at the front and flexing the foot to drop the heel at the back. And again, we're just tapping the ground, making sure that you breathe with the movement. Again, doesn't matter what that breath is. My ball is once again in the way. I should know better than to leave it there. Tapping the toe at the back and keeping the body as still as you can. There may be a little bit of sway in the body, as long as you're not dropping it too far forwards and back as you're moving. We're keeping the body as still as you possibly can by locking in through the core, as ever. Reaching out through the toe and pressing back through the heel. You will have a stronger and a weaker side as well, so you might have noticed that your first side felt stronger and more stable, or the opposite way around. This is always my weaker side for various reasons that I won't bore you with. I've explained them before. There's nothing wrong with having a weaker side. It's perfectly natural. We favour different sides of the body for different things. Just work on it and accept it. Don't beat yourself up about it. And last one, point the toe forwards and drag the heel back down and just bringing it in line and dropping it down. And rolling onto the front for the final exercise, we're going to build up kind of a rocking or a bow movement. Lying face down, we've warmed up the back with the back extensions that we did and the opposite arm, opposite leg lifts. So to begin with, we're just going to do a bit of a stretch through the quad. Just want you to lift your right foot towards the glute, and if you can, just reach back, take hold of the top of the foot and draw the heel in towards the glute. Just rest your head on your hand if you need to. I'll put a block there. And just drawing that in. You may not be this flexible, your quads may be very tight, your hip flexors may be tight, coming up into the front of the body may feel a little bit tight. So just whatever you can. If you're just getting your leg to here and you're making the best of this, then that's absolutely fine. Just try and take hold of it and draw that foot towards the glute. Breathe in all the time and drawing it a little bit further in if you can. And for about 5 to 10 seconds, I just want you to press the top of your foot into your arm. So engaging that quad at the front of the leg and feeling that quad switch on as you press, not as hard as you can, just gently, about 10-15% of your power. Breathing through it for 5 to 10 seconds, and then just relax that contraction and draw the leg in. And gently releasing that foot down to the mat. We're going to switch sides and repeat on the left. So bringing that leg up, bringing the heel towards the glute, and just taking hold, drawing the foot in. Don't worry if it doesn't come all the way to your glute. Just holding there for a few breaths. Keeping the knees hip width apart. Don't let the knee flare out. And again, just drawing it in a little bit more. And on your next exhale, I want you to just press that foot into the hand. Contracting the quad muscle at the front of the leg to do this. Just about 10 or 15% of your power. Breathing all the time. 5 to 10 seconds. And gently releasing the contraction and drawing the foot into your glute. You may even feel, and this is the whole point of that contraction, is that you may feel that you've got a little bit more range out of that leg now. And just gently releasing the leg back down to the mat. And bringing both legs up this time. And trying to reach back, take hold of the tops of both feet, drawing them into your glutes. Keeping the knees at hip width apart, so don't let them splay out, don't let them collapse in. If anything, collapsing in is better than splaying out, but try and keep them at hip width apart. With your forehead down to the mat, we're just going to press both feet into the hands for the time being, just 10% of your power. We're not lifting up at this point, but let your shoulders drop back. Almost as though you're squeezing your shoulder blades together around the back. Dropping the shoulders down and back. And keep your forehead on the mat if you want to, or you can just lift it up, but don't lift it too far. Breathing through that contraction, pressing the feet into the hands and gently letting it go. Drawing the legs in. Breathing throughout. The towel under your head if you need to, under your forehead or a block. And this time we're going to do exactly the same movement, but we're going to lift the chest off the mat. So take that breath in, engage through the core this time. As you breathe in and exhale, press the feet into the hands and lift from the mat. Lifting the chest, lifting the knees. Feel the opposing forces of your arms and your hands and your legs and your feet pulling you up off the mat, and you should just be kind of resting on your pelvis and lower belly. Breathing in and breathing out. This is a tough one, so don't be thinking that this shouldn't be as hard as it is. It is hard. Much harder than it looks. Drop those shoulders back. Breathing throughout. And on your next exhale, just relax down to the mat. If you need to let go of the feet, then do so. Try not to, but if you need to relax completely, just come flat down to the mat and just relax out. Just rock your pelvis from side to side. Holding onto the feet if you can. Keeping the knees hip width apart. You're going to take that breath in, engage through the core. As you exhale, push your feet into your hands and lift up. Higher this time if you can. Really lift those feet up, drop the shoulders back. Keep your eyes down to the mat, about a foot in front of you, so you're not putting stress on your neck, but you're not dropping it down either. Just looking at the ground about a foot in front of you, breathing through this. Keeping the knees hip width apart so they don't splay out. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lowering gently down to the mat. And dropping the feet down. Bringing the arms around, tucking them under the shoulders, tucking your toes at the back and pushing through to your knees and back. Toes together, feet untucked, knees mat width apart, just dropping back into a child's pose. So we've worked right through the hips, the hip flexors at the beginning, both stretching and strengthening. We've worked into the lower spine, we've obviously worked the core, and towards the end we went into some strength, back extension work. Now this child's pose is just allowing that extension work to relax back out. Elbows off the mat so it's active. You're reaching forwards rather than slumping down. Forehead is just off the mat. Sitting back onto the heels. Push through the palms, the heels of the hand to push yourself back onto your heels. And just rock gently from side to side to open up your shoulders and your back and drop between the knees. Try and tilt your pelvis forwards to drop the back into the knees. There won't probably be any perceptible movement as you tilt your pelvis forwards, but just the act of trying, you will feel the difference. Full breaths in, full breaths out. And on your next exhale, drop the elbows to the mat, drop the forehead to the mat. Stop tilting that pelvis and just switch everything off. Make it a relaxed child's pose. More of a slump now. Breathing fully in and fully out still. Using your breath to lower your heart rate, relax. And stay in here for as long as you choose to. But when you're ready, press through your palms rather than lifting through your back to lift your body from the mat to kneeling. And back to seated. So as I said at the beginning, a much more subtle set of exercises there, but hopefully you'll have still felt that that was quite an intense workout overall. Any questions, feedback or comments, as usual, leave them in the comments section or get back to me on a private message and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. See you soon and have a fantastic day.